On behalf of Omar Sharriff family and his many friends, I want to thank you for joining with us this afternoon to celebrate the life of a musical genius, to honor the man who brought so much joy with his music to us and to people throughout the world. He was born David Alexander Elam in Shreveport, Louisiana, March 10th, 1938. His family moved to Marshall while he was still an infant. David grew up here. David graduated from Pemberton High School in 1955, where he was in the band and the choir, and where he first heard another great Marshall boogie-woogie man, Floyd Dixon, who along with Houston's Amos Milburn performed in the Pemberton Auditorium. Omar said that it was after one of these free shows arranged by Principal G.A. Roseborough, who was Amos Milburn's uncle, that he decided to make his living playing piano. David left Marshall after high school. He sought his future in the world of music in California. Although he did not return for 55 years, it is fitting that he spent the last year of his life here, close to his roots, close to memories of his family and friends, surrounded by people who loved him, cared for him, and admired his genius. He told me many times that the greatest and most surprising thing he had ever experienced was returning to Marshall and finding so much love, so much admiration everywhere he went. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone called him the Boogie Woogie Man. More than a few times I have dwelt on how this must have felt to a man who throughout his career was called by music critics, quote, the world's greatest unknown blues and boogie piano player. Fellow musicians and practically anyone who ever heard him play recognized his greatness, but he was largely unknown to the wider public. His return to Marshall attracted national attention, international attention indeed, as well as much local fame. He often said he couldn't steal a toothpick in Marshall because everybody knew who he was. Omar was destined to be a boogie-woogie player. His mother, Susie Hill Elam, told Omar that his father, Tom Elam, named him after Tom's good friend, Dave Black Ivory King Alexander, the legendary turn-of-the-century Shreveport piano player who, no less than the Amardo Leadbelly, cited as a major influence on his style of playing. Many in Omar's family also played blues and boogie-woogie on piano and guitar, or they sang. His father, Tom, was a mule skinner in the logging camps around Caddo Lake, where boogie-woogie music first arose. Omar was called the last living link to the originators of boogie-woogie because he grew up hearing his father play it, and his father most likely learned it from the generation that created it. During the early 1970s, Dave began performing as Omar Sharriff. As both Dave Alexander and Omar Sharriff, he created a musical legacy that will shine as long as people listen to music. His recordings rank among the best in the blues and boogie-woogie field. He was a self-taught master of the piano who was completely original in everything he did. Yet at the same time, his knowledge of the great composers from Beethoven to Ray Charles was exhaustive. His passing has been reported literally throughout the world. We have been overwhelmed by expressions of sympathy and admiration for the way Marshall embraced him and he embraced Marshall during the final year of his life. There are so many people in Marshall who meant so much to Omar, I cannot possibly name them all. I must mention a few. Thank you, Commissioner Gloria Moon and former Mayor Buddy Power, who were so instrumental in facilitating Omar's relocation to Marshall. His old friend Raymond Roseborough, his nephew Clyde Elam, Jan Black and her staff at OS2, where Omar was the boogie-woogie man. His many faithful fans, such as Doyle Curry, who came to see and enjoy him everywhere he played, Bo Ellis and Jack Redmond, who did so much to make Omar's last year comfortable and secure. And I want to thank our city manager, Frank Johnson. More than anyone, Frank Johnson understood and appreciated what good things were happening in Marshall that Omar's huge talent and generous heart had made possible. When he came to us, Omar was suffering from considerable health problems. In Marshall, Texas, he received expert and loving care, thanks to Dr. Terry Gerber, his cardiologist, Dr. Larry Daniels, for all they did. But most of all, I must express my deepest and most heartfelt thanks, as I know Omar would want me to do to Dr. John Adams, who was not only Omar's physician, but was his dear friend who spent many hours visiting with him in Omar's apartment. I only heard Omar use the word genius 3 times when he spoke of Art Tatum, Ray Charles, and Dr. John Adams. Thanks to the many musicians who loved and appreciated Omar and were so excited to play with him. The list is too long to read here, but some of them are on stage this afternoon to pay a special tribute to this unique man of such great talent. I want to express our city's appreciation, my own heartfelt thanks to Dr. John Tennyson. John, you not only brought to the attention of the world Marshall's unique and rich musical heritage, you also found Omar in difficult circumstances in Sacramento. You traveled there to help him, then you brought him to our attention. None of the good things that have happened in Omar's last year could have happened without you, John. Your expertise and devotion to the music, to the great artists who created and shaped it, and your love and concern for Omar is of everlasting importance. Please know that Omar understood and appreciated what you did for him and his music. Last, I know Omar would want me to thank my wife Nancy and my son Barney. They loved him unconditionally, and he loved them back. And thanks to the wonderful folks at People's Funeral Home and Sullivan Funeral Home for their kind, selfless contributions to this memorial service and Omar's perpetual care. Omar has left us now, and we will mourn him. We will miss him. He was one of the all-time greats. He was a musical giant among giants. His legend will live on.
When the sun settles down and takes a lovely form, that's the golden time of day. The West Jeans Zone. You're a bright, shining star. again. Whoa, that's the golden time again. Whoa, that's the golden time of the day. Whoa, yeah, shining, can't you see it shining? Whoa, shine, children, shine. With the love in your heart. Ooh, shine, children, shine. With your love in your heart. Shine if you believe in love. With the love in your heart. Shine, ooh, children, shine. Ooh, shining, oh, shine if you believe in love. Shine, oh, children, shine,
That was so wonderful.